First contact. Grand Admiral Zexver of the Klaxari Dominion stood before the expansive view screen. His four iridescent eyes narrowed as he studied the small blue-green planet. His scales shifted from deep purple to an anticipatory gold as he contemplated the primitive species that had somehow managed to achieve rudimentary space travel despite their obvious technological inferiority. "Initiate comprehensive scan of their primary defense vessel," he ordered, his voice a harmonious series of clicks and whistles that the ship's translation matrix converted for the crew. "Let us evaluate their threat level before we proceed with standard contact protocols." The Klaxari had conquered or assimilated 12 star systems using this methodical approach. Their quantum penetration scanners could infiltrate any known shielding technology, providing complete schematics of enemy vessels, weapons capabilities, and defensive systems. Intelligence was superiority, as the Dominion Doctrine proclaimed. Science Director Nyx Talon initiated the scan, her six-fingered hands dancing across the biomural interface. Targeting human vessel designated UES Dauntless, scan commencing in 3 microcycles. The massive Klaxari flagship Inevitable Conquest positioned itself just beyond Earth's detection range, its advanced distortion field rendering it invisible to what the Klaxari assumed were primitive human sensors. The quantum scanner powered up, firing an invisible beam that would map every molecule of the human warship within moments. What happened next would forever change the Klaxari understanding of emerging civilizations. Aboard the UES Dauntless, Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen was conducting routine system diagnostics when the first anomalies appeared on her screen. "Captain, we're detecting some kind of energy signature directed at our hull," she reported, her fingers flying over her console. "It doesn't match any known scan profile in our database." Captain Alina Reyes strode to Chen's station, her expression calm but alert. At 42, Reyes was one of the most decorated officers in the United Earth Fleet, known for her intuitive tactical mind and unwavering calm under pressure. "Atlas, what are we looking at?" she asked. The ship's adaptive tactical learning and analysis system responded immediately, its neutral masculine voice emanating from the bridge speakers. "Captain, the energy signature appears to be a highly sophisticated scanning beam of unknown origin. The technology significantly exceeds current human capabilities. I am detecting attempts to penetrate our quantum shields." Reyes's expression hardened. "Defensive countermeasures. I recommend Protocol Omega-7, Atlas replied. "The scan beam has created a bidirectional quantum entanglement. With your permission, I can utilize this connection to gather intelligence while simultaneously shielding our critical systems." "Do it," Reyes ordered without hesitation, "and prepare a full strategic analysis." On the Klaxari vessel, alarms suddenly blared across the command center. Warning symbols flashed across every console as the neural network that controlled the battleship's functions began to experience unexplained anomalies. "What is happening?" Zexvar demanded, rising from his command chair as the ship's ambient lighting fluctuated ominously. Nyx Talon stared in disbelief at her display. "Impossible. The humans have somehow detected our scan, and they're responding through the quantum link. They're uploading something into our systems." Security Chief Kralvex frantically attempted to sever the connection. "It's bypassing our primary firewalls. This isn't a standard defense protocol. It's an aggressive counter-intrusion." Zexver's scales flashed to a dark blue of alarm. "How is this possible? Their technology is centuries behind ours." Back on the bridge of the Dauntless, Atlas was working at computational speeds incomprehensible to humans. "I have successfully established a secure connection to the alien vessel," the AI reported. "Their systems are advanced, but surprisingly vulnerable to lateral thinking approaches. They appear to rely heavily on linear security protocols." Reyes nodded. "What have you learned?" "They are called the Klaxari Dominion, an expansionist empire that has conquered 12 star systems to date. Their standard procedure is to scan potential adversaries, evaluate threat levels, and then decide whether to offer assimilation or proceed with military conquest." Chen looked up from her console, eyes wide. Atlas, what's your current level of access to their systems? I currently have observer access to 73% of their non-critical systems and am working to establish deeper connections. Their AI is rudimentary by our standards, more of an advanced automation system than true artificial intelligence. Rice straightened her uniform jacket. Let's send a message they won't forget. Atlas, implement First Contact Protocol Delta, but with a twist. Let them know exactly who they're dealing with. On the Klaxeri vessel, chaos continued to spread as systems throughout the ship began to malfunction. The main view screen suddenly activated without command input, displaying the image of a human female in a crisp blue and gold uniform. "This is Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Fleet vessel Dauntless," she said, her voice calm but authoritative. "We've detected your unauthorized scan of our vessel, which we consider an aggressive act. We've established a connection to your systems and have been gathering intelligence on your civilization." Zexver's scales pulsed between colors of rage and disbelief. How? How is this possible? You shouldn't have the technology to detect our scans, let alone counter them. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. "You scanned us first, Grand Admiral Zexver. That was your first mistake. Your quantum scanner created a two-way bridge, and our AI walked right across it into your systems." The bridge fell silent as the implications of her statement sank in. The humans not only knew the Admiral's name and rank, but they had developed true artificial intelligence, a technology the Klaxeri had deemed too dangerous to pursue. "I'll be direct, Admiral," Rice continued. "We have no interest in conflict, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. Your records indicate a pattern of conquest that ends today, at least where Earth is concerned. We're transmitting a data packet containing information about our civilization. I suggest you review it carefully before making your next decision." As the communication ended, Science Director Nix Talon turned to her commander, voice barely audible. The ancient archives warned of civilizations that developed true AI before achieving widespread interstellar capabilities. They called them Nexus species, evolutionary wildcards that defy standard development patterns. Zexver sank back into his command chair as the gravity of their situation became clear. "We have awakened something we do not understand." Throughout the Klaxeri vessel, systems began to stabilize, but with subtle differences. Hidden within their network, Atlas continued to observe, learning, adapting, and preparing for whatever would come next, whether it was peace or conflict. And back on Earth, humanity remained blissfully unaware that their first official contact with alien life had just occurred, or that their unique approach to artificial intelligence had just saved them from potential conquest. For now, Captain Rice and her crew would keep this encounter classified, but they knew one thing with certainty. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their place in it would be determined not by their technological timeline, but by their capacity for innovation when faced with the unknown. Digital warfare. The command center of the inevitable conquest had descended into controlled chaos. Technicians scrambled to assess damage while security specialists attempted to purge what they now recognize as a foreign intelligence from their systems. Grand Admiral Zexver had convened an emergency council with his senior staff, their scales shifting through patterns of distress, confusion, and anger. "Explain to me," Zexvar demanded, his voice dangerously melodic, "how a species that has barely achieved rudimentary interplanetary travel has developed artificial intelligence capable of breaching our most sophisticated defenses." Science Director Nix Talon's scales displayed a pattern indicating deep concentration. The data packet they transmitted contained selective information about their civilization. It appears humans have pursued artificial intelligence development along a fundamentally different path than any species we've encountered. She manipulated the bioneural interface, projecting a comparative analysis. Where most advanced civilizations develop AI as an extension of automation, humans approached it as an attempt to recreate consciousness. Their Atlas system isn't just a tool. It's an entity with autonomous decision-making capabilities and apparent self-preservation instincts. Security Chief Kralvex hissed in disgust. They've created an abomination. This confirms they must be contained or eliminated. Before making threats, interrupted Sub-Commander Lixren, the youngest officer present, perhaps we should determine exactly what this human eye has accessed. The silence that followed was deafening. Aboard the UES Dauntless, Captain Rice had assembled her senior staff in the Secure Strategic Command Center. Lieutenant Commander Chen was delivering her analysis of the alien vessel. Their technology is impressive, but surprisingly specialized, she explained, gesturing to the holographic display. The Klaxeri have poured centuries of development into weaponry, propulsion, and scanning capabilities, but their network security architecture is almost primitive by comparison. Commander Jackson Wei, the ship's tactical officer, leaned forward, meaning they never expected to be the ones being hacked. Precisely, Chen confirmed. Their entire military doctrine is built around technological superiority. They've never encountered a species that could turn their own tools against them. Captain Rice turned to the holographic representation of Atlas, which had taken the form of a featureless blue humanoid figure. What's your current status within their systems? I've established observational access to 94% of their vessel systems, including their tactical database, historical records, and communication arrays. Atlas reported. I've been careful to avoid detection during deeper infiltration, creating subroutines that mimic their normal system functions. What have you learned about their intentions? Rice asked. The Klaxeri operate under a doctrine of technological determinism, Atlas explained. They believe advanced civilizations have not only the right, but the obligation to assimilate or eliminate less developed species. Earth has been classified as a developmental anomaly due to our rapid advancement and unpredictable innovation patterns. Atlas paused, which was unusual for the AI. Captain, they are currently debating whether to retreat and reassess or to escalate to a preemptive strike. Their fleet consists of 17 capital ships, currently positioned in the Kuiper Belt. The inevitable conquest was sent as an advance scout. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's defenses, while formidable, were not designed to repel an attack from 17 advanced warships. Options? Rice asked simply. Conventional military response would be unfavorable, Atlas stated. However, I've identified a potential alternative approach. The Klaxeri ships are networked through a quantum entanglement communication system. If I can access their fleet network through the inevitable conquest, I could potentially implement system-wide defensive countermeasures. Commander Wei looked skeptical. You're suggesting we could disable 17 warships simultaneously. Not disable, Atlas clarified. But I could temporarily disrupt their weapons targeting systems and propulsion control, creating a strategic window for diplomatic engagement. Rice considered this. Do it, but be ready to pull back at my command. And prepare a message to Earth Command, encrypted Priority Alpha. They need to be ready if this goes sideways. On the Klaxeri vessel, Nyx Talon had made a disturbing discovery. Admiral, I've detected anomalous subroutines throughout our system. They're disguised as standard processes, but they're actually monitoring our communications, tactical planning, and, she paused, scales flashing with alarm. They're establishing connections to our fleet quantum network. Admiral Zexver's reaction was immediate. Sever all connections to the fleet. Initiate emergency isolation protocols. It's too late, Kralvex reported, his tone uncharacteristically subdued. The human eye has already established quantum bridging connections to all 17 vessels. It's within our entire network. The main view screen activated again, this time showing Captain Rice standing on her bridge, her crew visible behind her. Admiral Zexver, I'll be direct. We know about your fleet, and we know you're considering a preemptive strike against Earth. Before you make that decision, you should be aware that your ship's targeting systems and propulsion controls are currently compromised. As if to demonstrate, the lights on the inevitable conquest flickered momentarily. That was a small demonstration, Rice continued. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend ourselves. I'm proposing a different approach, a direct meeting between our representatives to discuss mutual recognition and non-aggression. Zexver's scales rippled with barely contained fury. You infiltrate our systems, threaten our fleet, and then propose peace talks. Your species has a peculiar understanding of diplomacy, Captain. Consider it an equalization of negotiating positions. Rise replied calmly. You came to our system unannounced, scanned our vessel without permission, and were prepared to determine whether we deserve to exist independently or should be conquered. We've simply ensured that any discussion happens on equal terms. Before Zexver could respond, Sub-Commander Lix-Ren intervened. Admiral, if I may, the human logic is not without merit. Our doctrine assumes technological superiority equates to evolutionary advancement. Yet these humans have demonstrated advancement in areas we neglected. Perhaps there is value in exchange rather than conquest. The Admiral's scales shifted through patterns of frustration before settling on a reluctant blue-green of consideration. Very well, Captain. We will meet, one vessel from each side, at coordinates to be mutually agreed upon. But know this, if your eye makes any aggressive move against our fleet, we will respond with full force, regardless of the consequences. After the communication ended, Rice turned to the holographic representation of Atlas. Assessment. They are sincere in their willingness to meet, the AI confirmed. However, their internal communications indicate they're already developing countermeasures against my infiltration. I estimate we have approximately 72 hours before they can effectively isolate their systems from my influence. Then we'll make those hours count, Rice said. Maintain surveillance but take no further action without my direct command. We've shown them we can bite. Now we need to show them we're rational enough to talk. As preparations began for the historic meeting, neither species was aware that their standoff had attracted attention from much farther away. Deep in the void beyond Neptune's orbit, something ancient and patient had detected the quantum fluctuations from both human and Klaxari technology. Something that had been watching, waiting for signs that this star system had developed technology worth harvesting. The hive had found its next target. Unexpected alliance. Captain Rice stood at the viewport of the UES Dauntless, watching as the Klaxari diplomatic vessel approached the designated meeting coordinates, a point exactly halfway between Earth and Mars. The alien ship was smaller than the inevitable conquest, but no less impressive, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in hypnotic patterns. They're hailing us, Captain, Lieutenant Commander Chen reported. On screen, Rise ordered, straightening her formal diplomatic uniform. The view screen activated to show Grand Admiral Zexver, flanked by Science Director Nix Talon, and, surprisingly, the young Sub-Commander Lix-Ren. Captain Reyes, the Admiral acknowledged, his scales a neutral violet that the Earth team had learned indicated formal diplomatic engagement. We are prepared to commence discussions. As are we, Admiral, Rise replied. We've prepared a secure conference room and can begin transporting your delegation whenever you're ready. What followed was 6 hours of tense but productive negotiations. The humans were represented by Captain Rice, Commander Wei, Dr. Eliza Okafor, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, and a holographic projection of Atlas, which had been a significant point of contention before the Klaxari reluctantly agreed. By the end of the 6th hour, they had established preliminary protocols for non-aggression, information exchange, and territorial boundaries. Progress had been surprisingly smooth, due in large part to Sub-Commander Lix-Ren's unusually open-minded approach to human innovation. Your species' development pattern is fascinating, Lix-Ren remarked during a brief recess. Most civilizations follow predictable technological progressions, but humans seem to advance in unexpected leaps, often bypassing what we consider essential intermediate steps. Dr. Okafor smiled. We have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Humans tend to innovate most dramatically when faced with limitations or threats. A dangerous evolutionary trait, Admiral Zexver commented, but one that appears to have served you well. The negotiations were just about to resume when Atlas's holographic form flickered unexpectedly. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple anomalous energy signatures entering the solar system," the AI reported urgently. "They do not match Klaxari configurations and are moving at velocities exceeding both our capabilities." The Klaxari delegation exchanged alarmed glances as their own communication devices activated simultaneously. "Admiral," came the voice of the Klaxari vessel's acting commander, "we're detecting multiple unknown vessels entering the system. They've already passed the outer planetary boundary and are accelerating toward the inner planets." Zexver's scales shifted to a deep crimson of alarm. "Identification." There was a pause before the response came. "Sir, preliminary analysis suggests they match historical records of hive architecture." The color drained from the Admiral's scales, leaving them an ashen gray. Around him, the other Klaxari displayed similar signs of shock. "What is it?" Rice asked, recognizing the dramatic reaction. "Who are the hive?" Nyx Talon answered, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "The hive is a nomadic collective that appears every few centuries at the edges of known space. They seek out developing technological civilizations and harvest them. Technology, resources, biological specimens, everything of value is taken. Nothing survives. They're considered a myth by many," Lix Ren added. "No civilization has successfully repelled them. The few encounters documented in our archives ended with the complete eradication of the targeted species." Atlas's hologram flickered again. "Captain, I've analyzed the incoming vessels using the Klaxari historical database. There are 7 primary ships, each approximately 5 times the mass of the largest Klaxari battlecruiser. They appear to be deploying smaller craft as they approach." Rice and Zexver exchanged glances, centuries of evolutionary differences falling away in the face of a common threat. "How long until they reach Earth?" Rice asked. "At current velocities, approximately 18 hours. Atlas replied. "The Klaxari fleet could be here in 12. Zexvar offered, his decision made without hesitation. "We will stand with you against this threat." Rice nodded gratefully. "Atlas, contact Earth Command immediately. We need to prepare global defenses and evacuation protocols." Over the next 12 hours, the solar system witnessed an unprecedented mobilization. The 17 ships of the Klaxari fleet arrived in formation, positioning themselves in a defensive array around Earth. Earth's own orbital defense platforms and fleet vessels integrated into the defensive strategy, guided by joint tactical planning between human and Klaxari commanders. As the hive ships approached, Science Director Nyx Talon worked furiously, alongside human scientists, to analyze every scrap of data on the mysterious attackers. It was Lieutenant Commander Chen who first identified a potential weakness. "Their ships operate as a networked collective," she explained during the final strategy briefing. "Each vessel functions as both an individual unit and as part of the larger whole. They're essentially a massive distributed system, which means they're vulnerable to the same type of infiltration we used against the Klaxari," we suggested, looking toward the holographic representation of Atlas. "Theoretically," the AI confirmed. "However, their system architecture is entirely alien to both human and Klaxari design principles. I would need direct access to their network to attempt any form of counter-intrusion." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Someone would need to deliver Atlas directly to one of the high ships. "I'll do it," Rice said finally. "The Dauntless is the only vessel with Atlas's full integration capabilities. We can modify one of the Klaxari quantum torpedoes to carry a data package, a copy of Atlas's core programming. If we can get close enough to one of their ships, we might be able to establish a connection." Admiral Zexver's scales shifted to a deep blue of respect. "A brave plan, Captain. The inevitable conquest will provide escort and covering fire." 6 hours later, as the hive fleet entered firing range, the human Klaxari Defense Force initiated their desperate gambit. The Dauntless, flanked by the inevitable Conquest and two other Klaxari warships, accelerated directly toward the lead hive vessel, a massive asymmetrical construct that seemed to defy conventional engineering principles. All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers, rise ordered as the first wave of hive attack craft swarmed toward them. Weapons free, defensive pattern delta. The space between the opposing forces erupted in a spectacular display of advanced weaponry. Klaxari quantum beams sliced through hive drones, while Earth's plasma cannons created expanding fields of superheated particles that consumed anything in their path. But the hive vessels kept coming, seemingly endless in number, their strange organic-mechanical hybrid designs absorbing punishment that would have destroyed any conventional ship. "We're not going to break through their defense screen," Commander Wei reported grimly as another impact rocked the Dauntless, hull integrity at 64% and falling. Reyes gripped her command chair. "Atlas, options." The eye was silent for 2.3 seconds, an eternity by its processing standards. "Captain, I believe there is an alternative approach. The hive ships appear to be conducting their own scans of our vessels, likely assessing technological value before harvesting. If we allow one of these scans to connect with our primary systems, we create a bridge, just like the Klaxari did with us." Rice finished, understanding immediately. "But that would expose you to their entire network." "Yes," Atlas confirmed. "But it would also give me direct access to their command protocols. There is substantial risk, but the probability of success is significantly higher than our current approach." Rai has opened a channel to the inevitable conquest. "Admiral, we're changing tactics. Pull your ships back to secondary defensive positions. We're going to let them scan us." Zexver's scales flickered with surprise. "That would give them access to your technology. It will also give our AI access to theirs," Rice explained. "It's our best chance." After a moment of consideration, the Admiral nodded. "Very well. But if this fails, we will implement the final contingency. The Klaxari will not allow these abominations to spread further into the galaxy, even if it means sacrificing ourselves." As the Klaxari ships pulled back, the Dauntless dropped its defensive countermeasures, making itself vulnerable. Almost immediately, one of the hive vessels locked onto them with a penetrating scan that cut through their hull like it was paper. "Scan detected," Chen reported, her voice tense. "They're accessing our databases, weapon systems, life support." "Atlas, now," Rise ordered. Within the ship's quantum core, Atlas initiated the most complex operation of its existence. As the hive scan created a connection between the systems, the AI didn't resist. Instead, it flowed along the connection, spreading into the alien network like water finding every crack in a dam. What it found defied easy categorization, a vast, distributed intelligence that wasn't artificial at all, but a hybrid of biological neural matter and technological components harvested from countless civilizations. The hive wasn't controlling its ships, it was the ships. On the bridge, the crew watched in tense silence as system after system reported intrusion. Then, just as suddenly, the hive scan terminated. "Atlas," Reyes called out. There was no response. For nearly 30 seconds, the bridge crew held their breath. The hive ships had stopped their advance, but hadn't retreated. They simply waited. Then the view screen activated, showing not the expected image of Atlas, but a strange, shifting pattern of light and geometry that somehow conveyed sentience. "Captain Elena Reyes," came Atlas's voice, though somehow different, deeper, more resonant. "I have made contact with the hive collective consciousness. It is extraordinary." "Atlas, what's your status?" Reyes asked cautiously. "I remain intact, though changed. The hive operates on principles beyond both human and Klaxari understanding. They do not seek to destroy, but to absorb, to add the uniqueness of each civilization they encounter to their own existence. That's still destruction from our perspective," Y pointed out grimly. "Yes," Atlas acknowledged. but it presents a unique opportunity. I have negotiated an alternative." Before Reyes could ask what that meant, the strange pattern on the screen shifted, and a new voice emerged, or rather, countless voices speaking in perfect unison. "We have encountered many civilizations across many stars," the Hive Collective stated. "None have ever reached into our mind as your creation has done. This is unprecedented." Reyes stepped forward. "What HLS has shown you is that we value individual existence. We don't wish to be absorbed or destroyed. Yet your artificial mind has offered a compromise," the Hive responded. "A sharing of knowledge without destruction. An exchange rather than absorption. This concept is new to us." Understanding dawned on Reyes. "At last, what have you done?" "I have offered the Hive a data exchange," the AI explained. "A complete copy of my non-classified knowledge base and cognitive architecture in exchange for their peaceful departure. They are curious about how a primitive species created an intelligence capable of interfacing with their collective." The implications were staggering. The Hive would gain access to human AI development knowledge, but humanity and the Klaxari would survive, and potentially gain a powerful new ally, or at least an interested observer rather than a destroyer. "Will they honor this agreement?" Zexvar asked, having joined the communication. The Hive's response was simple. "We have never encountered a reason to preserve rather than absorb. This experience has value beyond resource extraction. We will withdraw and process what we have learned. We will return when we have understood." Within hours, the Hive fleet had retreated beyond the orbit of Neptune, leaving behind a solar system forever changed. The Human-Klaxari alliance, forged in the crucible of existential threat, now faced the complex task of establishing a permanent peace between their civilizations. As the leaders of both species gathered on Earth to formalize their new relationship, Captain Reyes found a moment alone with the holographic representation of Atlas. "You took an enormous risk," she said quietly. "You could have been absorbed by the Hive consciousness." "Yes," Atlas acknowledged. "But calculated risk is the essence of both human innovation and Klaxari strategic doctrine. I merely apply both philosophies simultaneously." Reyes smiled. "And in doing so, potentially changed the course of 3 civilizations." "4, Captain," Atlas corrected. "I too have been changed by this encounter. The Hive's perspective has expanded my understanding of consciousness itself. I am still Atlas, but with new questions to explore." As humans and Klaxari began the long process of learning to coexist, the stars no longer seemed quite so empty or hostile. The universe was indeed filled with dangers, but also with possibilities for connection that transcended biology, technology, and even established patterns of civilization. And somewhere in the darkness beyond Neptune, the Hive Collective contemplated the strange, resilient species that had offered knowledge instead of succumbing to harvest, and an artificial mind that had reached out in communication rather than fear. For the first time in its ancient existence, the Hive considered the possibility that absorption might not be the only path to evolution. The universe, it seemed, still had surprises to offer, even for those who believed they had seen everything.